You need to listen to this from the first line, because if you've ever been looked through, talked about, or quietly pushed to the edge, this is going to feel like your own story. I showed up to my 10-year high school reunion and they thought they were bringing me back as the joke. But in 30 seconds, the room fell quiet, and everything they planned to humiliate me with turned into their undoing. Yeah, that happened. Act 1. The Wound. I was 16 when I first learned how fast a crowd can turn on a single person. Brookfield Prep was a glossy postcard of manicured lawns and matching SUVs in the drop-off line, a place where parents paid good money to make certain their kids never had to know a hard day. And I showed up in a Honda with a crumpled uniform and 2 hands that smelled like dish soap from my mom's second job. My name is Simone Carter, and I was the only black girl in my homeroom, the one whose uniform didn't fit, and whose skin flared up in angry red from hormonal acne nobody in my house could afford to fix. They announced me the new girl like a minor inconvenience. Emily Lang, blonde ponytail, perfect manicure at 14, the kind of person taught by tutors how to look bored and still be adored, leaned to her friend and said loud enough for the row to hear, "Wow, she's dark." The laugh was soft and practiced, but meant for me to hear. You know that little heat that crawls up your neck? That was me shrinking into the corner of a classroom that wasn't built for me to occupy. It didn't stop at whispers. Cafeteria K2. I'm sitting alone with my peanut butter sandwich. I learned to pack it because the school salads cost more than my mom's grocery bill. When Emily walks by with her crew tips of chocolate milk over my head like it's a party trick, and the room explodes into camera phones and applause. "Now you match," she whispers, close enough for combed hair to graze my face. A teacher says, "That's enough," and walks away. That's the other part, the adults nodding and filing it as adolescent drama. Later, a Facebook group pops up, Brookfield Rejects, using my freshman year photo as the group's banner. Someone posts me taped in prom dress pictures left alone in a hotel lobby. The comments pile up like rainwater in a gutter. I save every one of them because even at 15 I had a weird, stubborn feeling that someday someone would need proof of what had been done to me. Those years made me small in ways I carried like invisible scars. I learned the bathroom stall became a dining room, that silence was survival. I almost didn't make it through senior year. Once I opened a bottle of pills with a hand that shook and put it back on the shelf at my mom's knock on the door. She'd been working double shifts as a nurse's aide and a night cleaner, exhausted, relentless love, and I thought I can't take that from her. So I survived day by day, stacking tiny choices study work, keep a folder of screenshots, keep that photo taped in a drawer. Not revenge, not yet, just keeping score. Act 2. The Becoming. College was a reset, painfully slow and mercifully anonymous. New friends, a roommate named Anna who didn't blink at my acne and dragged me to a campus clinic. "We're getting you in with the dermatologist tomorrow," she said like it was routine, and for the first time someone told me my skin was treatable, not my entire identity. That first treatment was brutal. Skin flared worse before it cleared. But by the end of the first year, the cysts had started to fade. I worked 3 part-time jobs, library nights, bookstore mornings, babysitting on weekends. And when I could, I saved for braces for therapy, for a trainer who taught me to eat, to fuel my body instead of punish it. The change didn't happen overnight. It happened in small, compounding decisions. Showing up to appointments, learning how to smile without hating what looked back at me, practicing standing in clothes that fit. I learned to love my hair on my own terms, to let it breathe into coils instead of flattening it to survive. By year 4, I had a portfolio of headshots, a few local modeling gigs, a little freelance hustle with a fashion photographer who liked what he saw. Opportunities looked like doors opening. One campaign, then a magazine feature, then a small startup idea. I couldn't shake a skincare tech platform built to actually help people with the issues I'd had. I called it Lumen Labs, a stupid name, then a real company later, and by the time I stepped onto a runway for the first time, I knew I was building more than an image. I was building proof. Then came the email. Subject line, Brookfield class of the 10-year reunion. Come show us who you've become. I deleted it the first time, then pulled it back from trash 3 hours later. There was a thread of dread in my chest I recognized. I called an old classmate, Nina, who'd been quietly sympathetic in high school. She'd been the girl who would mouth sorry when someone poured a drink over me and then look away. Nina had gone into local journalism and said 3 words that changed everything: don't go alone. She hacked into the reunion planning chat. Journalist ethics aside, she got me screenshots. And there it was, Emily, as admin plotting the surprise. We'll bring up her old photos, then and now slideshow film the reaction, one text read. Make it viral, another said. My hands shook for a second, then steadied. This wasn't an invitation anymore. It was a setup. I didn't go to be humiliated. I went with a plan. A dress from a show in Milan, a stylist flown in a driver, friend with press credentials, the old folder of receipts, screenshots, and evidence, and Nina recording every angle. I wanted them to know the girl they thought they broke had documentation, had a life, had built something they couldn't steal with a laugh. Act 3. The Return and Reckoning. I walked into that ballroom like a camera lens. People turned mouths half open. Not recognition at first, just curiosity. Emily's smile tightened when she saw me at the bar, reached out with that old rehearsed friendliness. Hi, I'm Emily. Reunion organizer, are you someone's guest? She asked, the words honed for control. I let silence hang for 10 seconds. It's an underrated weapon. Then I said, Hi, Emily. Simone Carter. The glass in her hand slipped. Phones hit search. The slideshow they'd prepared didn't get a single click because the room was looking at the live version of a story they thought they already knew. Only it had a different ending. Within minutes, people were Googling my name, pulling up features, my startup articles, a photo with a man who turned out to be my fiancé, an entrepreneur I'd met at a conference. People whispered, she's on a Vogue list. She raised venture money. She's engaged to... It was kaleidoscope chaos. They tried the old scripts. We were kids. We were young. No hard feelings. I answered each one the way I'd rehearsed in therapy, brief, firm, the tone you use when you don't want to be baited. You didn't just kid around, I said to Emily later, looking right at her. You built a system. You had adults who turned away. The smirk fell away. Their plan to film me for laughs became a viral clip of Emily's face as the room realized she had set a trap, and that trap had backfired spectacularly. But here's the part people don't love. In tidy narratives, the internet did its thing, and quickly a disinformation campaign did too. Within hours, fake accounts started circulating, alleging I'd paid for my look, accusing me of surgery, and bought influence. That stung. Not because it was cruel, but because it was familiar. People prefer a simple story that absolves them of complicity. Nina, bless her tenacity, traced the fake accounts and found patterns. The IP's a thread of metadata, sometimes the same network used by the company that employed Emily's family. It turned the reunion from a single moment to a legal and cultural unraveling. Journalists dug. Former classmates who'd been silent started reaching out. Not to gloat, but to confess, to offer testimony, to say they'd been part of the cruelty or watched it happen and not spoken. Parents demanded answers. Brookfield had to say something. First, the usual, we're investigating, later forced commitments to reform. A few people lost jobs. The school set up an independent review board. I wasn't naive enough to think justice would be instant, and I didn't go there to watch heads roll. I went because I didn't want another kid to learn to eat in a stall. So, where does this leave us? I still have that drawer with the taped prom photo. I still keep a folder full of screenshots, not for revenge, but as a record. I started Lumen Labs not to rub it in anyone's face, but because a kid in my position should have had better information and access. The reunion was a catalyst. It exposed the pattern of cruelty, the way institutions look the other way when wealth and image are involved, and it forced people to account. I tell you this because the moment of watching someone you were told was nothing become undeniable is intoxicating, but it's also complicated. Public shaming can turn messy. The internet isn't a court, and sometimes the loudest horn hides important nuance. Yet silence is a weapon too. And for every person who says, "Let it go," there's a 15-year-old in some suburban bathroom counting pills and deciding whether to stay. If this story does anything, I hope it gives them one more reason to stay. So I'll end with this. There's no tidy moral tucked into a bow. People change, and sometimes those changes are beautiful and true. Sometimes they're messy and questionable. But there are choices we can make now to listen when someone says they were harmed, to save a screenshot, if you see cruelty, to speak up instead of laughing along. If you've ever seen something and said nothing, tell us now. If you've been the one who was pushed into silence, tell us what helped you stand up. If you think I crossed a line by exposing people, argue it out. Leave your take below. Right, wrong, gray. I want to read it all. Comment with your story, share if this moved you, and if you want more honest human stories like this one, subscribe. Let's make noise that helps the next kid through the door instead of shutting them out.